Welcome to Season 2, Episode 6 of Youth Empowerment Radio. Today we are interviewing Dominic Johnson, the Community Relations Supervisor for Mariposa Center for Safety. In this episode, we will talk about the services that they provide and their work and why it's so important and impactful.
The material and information presented here is provided by lived experience youth and is for general information purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are of those of the guest only and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Youth Move.
Thank you, Dominic, for being with us here today. And this podcast is going to cover some questions about Mariposa Center for Safety, since you're one of our RISE sites. So the first question is, could you give an overview of the Mariposa Center for Safety and its mission?
Of course, and thank you for having me today. Mariposa Center for Safety, formerly known as the YWCA Pueblo, assists survivors of domestic violence, human trafficking, sex assault, and family abuse. We have a few different areas of services to include case management services, our emergency shelter, Teresa's Place Child Safety Exchange and Visitations. We also have our Runaway and Homeless Youth Program, also known as RYE, and our education areas for the community and community partners. Our mission is to empower survivors of domestic violence, human trafficking, sex assault, and family abuse through increasing self-sufficiency and self-worth, education, prevention, victim advocacy, and by offering emergency services, provisions, and shelter when needed.
Awesome. A follow-up question that I have to that, I remember that you guys were formerly known as the YWCA, but what inspired you guys to change it from that to the Mariposa Center for Safety?
So we branched off from the YWCA USA to better serve the needs of our Pueblo community, but also show diversity as we help men, women, and the LGBTQ plus community. Although we are no longer associated with the YWCA, we still have a working partnership with them.
Oh, good to know. Good to know. Earlier you mentioned a couple of services that you guys provided. So these next following questions are going to ask about each of those services. So can you tell us more about the services provided at Teresa's Place, such as supervised visitation and safe exchanges, and why these are critical for families?
Yeah, so Teresa's Place Child Safety Exchange and Visitation provides safe child exchange and monitored visitations to our community. Whether it's court-ordered or not, anyone in our community or surrounding areas can utilize this service, and it is free of charge. Our center does have extended hours until 8 p.m. to better serve families who are working typically until 5 p.m., 6 p.m., so they can still utilize our service to have those visitations or exchanges with their children. It's important for our families because we are one of the safe exchanges that's mostly in Southern Colorado. So we get other families from surrounding counties, El Paso County, Canyon City, Fremont, La Junta, Alamosa, Trinidad. So a lot of Southern Colorado utilizes our safe exchange program.
Oh, you guys are a little bit popular. That's crazy. And a follow-up question to that, are DV clients able to use Teresa's Place also, or is it like a separate?
Yes. So anybody can utilize the service. A lot of our families are court ordered, but at Teresa's Place, we treat every family as if there's a protection order in place, whether they have one or not. We don't want parents running into each other, so they have to come at different times to exchange the child or have those monitored visitations. It better works that way. So that way, Teresa's Place is considered a safe haven. So there can't be any serving or anything like that on premises.
All right, good to know. Well, you guys also have the Runaway and Homeless Youth Program that's fairly new to you this year. Could you explain how it operates?
Yes. So Mariposa Center for Safety has a Runaway and Homeless Youth Program, also known as RYE, RHY, in partnership with the Colorado Rural Collaborative. So we do have two programs under that, which is our Basic Center and our Street Outreach Program. The Basic Center is for at risk of becoming unaccompanied youth. So this program helps those under the age of 17 to include helping them get food, clothing, maybe medical care, and engaging them in any recreational activities in the community. We also have our street outreach program, which is for any unaccompanied youth under the age of 21. And this assists them with maybe emergency shelter, any survival aid, crisis intervention, and follow-up support. So the street outreach is really about connecting them with caring adults in the community.
That's very important because I feel like when youth are at that age, they need someone to meet them halfway or be a good influence in them because then it can impact them in their adult years. So that's very good that you guys try to meet them during their formative years.
It does. And it's important for them to have those role models in the community to show them, that they can still continue on the right path in life.
That's awesome. So I know that you are the community relations supervisor. So I know you do some outreach and some presentations, which the next question is about. So what role does community education such as presentations such as healthy relationships play in prevention efforts?
So with this, we really want to educate our community on our services, but also domestic violence. This really helps with prevention, especially when we try to target the youth. So we do have a safe dates program, which is for middle and high school students, which is a teen dating prevention violence program. We currently collaborate with Pueblo Community College and UCCS to provide workshops to their students on healthy relationships. We also have our Coaching Boys into Men program. That one is fairly new this year. Recently just got trained in that a few weeks ago. And what that program entails is we go out and we train the coaches in schools or community-based programs to have conversations with their athletes and their teams on bullying, dating violence, sexual reputation, kind of all those topics surrounding dating violence. And so we feel it is important to start putting that in the youth's minds on what a healthy relationship looks like to help them into adulthood.
Yeah, I feel like that's very important because I know that relationship violence or intimate partner violence is like very prominent in Pueblo. So teaching them that certain things that their partner are doing to them is not okay is very important because I feel like some people get used to being in such a situation that they think it's normal when it's really not because it has an effect on your mental health, your physical health, and it probably can affect you for the rest of your life if you're not aware of what's going on.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of, couples tend to get stuck in that cycle of violence, especially with the youth. We see a lot of generational effects. They viewed a lot of these things in their childhood from, family or friends on unhealthy relationships, or they've witnessed domestic violence. And so they start to have that generational effect of they think that that's what's normal. So it's important to kind of get in there and educate on what healthy relationships actually look like in prevention efforts.
Okay, good. And then another question I have about these presentations, how often do you guys do them during the year?
So we try to get out anytime as possible. So anytime we're invited to any event, we never decline. But we always show up to community fairs, resources. If any of our community partners or anybody in the community at all requested training, we will provide it to them. And we ask them, what are the types of things that they want to see in the training? So we alter those trainings specific to what they're looking for.
That's amazing. The next question I have is about the emergency shelter, because I know you guys offer that to people who are directly fleeing domestic violence. So how does the shelter work?
So we do have a 24-hour emergency shelter. It is staffed 365 days a year, days, nights, and weekends. We do have a 24-hour crisis line. So if somebody is looking to get into our shelter, there's a few avenues that they can go. They can always call us ahead of time and set up an intake. If it's more an emergency, they can contact our emergency crisis line and be triaged over the phone to see if they qualify for our services or to get into our shelter. So our shelter, we have 24 beds. So we have about 5 bedrooms with sets of bunk beds in them. Our shelter is still primarily only women and children. But if we have a male survivor or LGBTQ plus member, we can place them in a hotel temporarily for those emergency shelter services.
Another question I have about the shelter is how do you guys ensure the safety and confidentiality of clients utilizing it? 'Cause I know that's a big issue when they're fleeing domestic violence.
Yes. So we try to be as confidential as possible. So the shelter used to be located at 801 North Santa Fe. That is now just our administrative building. We did move the shelter to an undisclosed location. So nobody is aware of this location. When somebody is fleeing abuse, They have to sign a confidentiality waiver to be able to go into our shelter, but they are allowed one safe person if they need to disclose the location, such as, getting a ride to work or from work, those types of things. Our shelter still operates. It still operates as a normal house. So clients can come and go as they please. We do have a 10 p.m. curfew, but we try to keep things as confidential as possible. It is a secured facility, so they have to be buzzed in and out. And like I said, if anybody is wanting to know the location of the shelter, it has to be ran through our executive director and they have to sign a confidentiality waiver.
It sounds very safe to me. And I know sometimes clients do not qualify for shelter depending on their circumstances, but are they still allowed to use like some case management resources if they don't qualify for shelter, if they want to do like safety planning or something like that?
Absolutely. So we have our residential and non-residential programs. So residential means we are housing you in our shelter. Non-residential means we're not housing you in our shelter, but you still have access to all of our services. So whatever that looks like for the client, case management services, maybe emotional support, attending court with the client, basic needs such as food and clothing, relocation assistance, things of that nature.
Great, good to know. All right. So I know you guys have the case managers and other staff here. And I know for them to deal with like some of the clients we have, they need to have training. So what type of training are staff required to have before working with the clients?
So typically when somebody onboards with Mariposa, they do have to complete 40 hours of training and it's on various topics, how to trauma-informed responses, how to be, how to have those culturally inclusive, trauma-informed responses to clients. There's a variety of topics that they have to complete prior to actually being hands-on with a client. And of course, they're never by themselves. So they'll sit with an experienced case manager to kind of go over that. As staff continues to be ongoing, we are all required to have 15 hours of continuing education credits a year. And so that ranges from a variety of topics, anything from trauma-informed trainings, motivational interviewing, topics, of course, related to domestic violence, human trafficking, sex assault, and family abuse.
Yeah, I remember I had to take those trainings was when I first came in May and they took forever. It was useful in the long run. It was like, oh, okay, this actually applies to real life. It's a sad reality, but I understand why you guys do the trainings. And a follow-up question to the one I just asked, why is it important to have culturally responsive and trauma-informed services in this line of work?
So it's important to have trauma-informed services so we are not re-traumatizing our clients. Typically, when survivors come in for services, they are in crisis mode. So we like to meet them where they are at. And that looks like a variety of things. So our main goal at the end of the day is to serve and help the client the best we can to get them into a better place or where they need to be.
That is very aware of you guys. That's very nice because I know within like the DV workforce, like sometimes people don't do a good job of like meeting the clients halfway or trying to understand their perspective. So it's nice to know that you guys are like actively trying to like combat that stigma that we have.
Correct. And like I said, at the end of the day, the goal is to help and serve the client. We never push clients into anything they don't want to. We like to come at it from a perspective of we want the client to tell us what they need so we could assist them with resources or getting them on track. If they want to find employment, okay, we could assist them with that. But we don't necessarily tell them the things that they, should be doing. We leave it all up to the client.
All right. Good to know. And then speaking of your guys' like organizational culture and values, what core values guide the center's approach to providing high quality and confidential services?
So our core values here at Mariposa are inclusivity, respect, ethical practices, professionalism, high quality services, confidentiality, and financial responsibility. So when our case managers are meeting with the clients, these are the things that we like to keep in mind. We always want to be respectful of the client and their needs. So being able to assist in those different areas of them being financially responsible again. And when a survivor comes to us, they feel like all of their power and control has been stripped for them. So we like to give them the power back to them, letting them know that they can still lead their lives. They're still in charge of their own lives. And that kind of falls and aligns with our core values.
It's good to know. I know like working at a place like this can't always be easy. You guys face any challenges when it comes to combating domestic violence and supporting survivors? Any difficulties?
Sorry, can you repeat that one more
Yeah,
time?
right. What are some challenges that you guys face when it comes to like helping support survivors or combating domestic violence?
Some challenges we face is, sometimes getting funding. I know funding has been an issue for Mariposa Center for Safety for a while. And so, but aside from that, we do have great support from our Pueblo community and surrounding areas. We're always getting, donations from the community, you know, tangible things that can help us assist our clients. So whether that looks like kitchenware, food, clothing, those types of things, all of those donations and our community support really helps us support our clients. We're always looking for volunteers as well. And so we do get volunteers from our community that will come out to our agency and assist us with whatever needs we have, putting together food boxes for our clients, and maybe stocking our clothing boutique. So we're able to provide clothing, seasonal clothing to our clients and things of that nature.
Well, sounds normally you guys face difficulties. It sounds like you guys have a good support system in the community, so that's always
We do. The Pueblo community has been really, really great in supporting our agency. And so we're just very grateful for them.
great. And speaking of the community, how do partnerships with other organizations such as Health Solutions or Catholic Charities enhance the support you provide the clients?
So we partner with Health Solutions and Catholic Charities. Health Solutions provides an on-site therapist for us that provides therapy to our clients. So if a client meets with a case manager and that's one of their needs is they're wanting to engage in therapy, we will let our on-site therapist know and they'll reach out and kind of set up that appointment and they can start therapy services with the clients. Catholic Charities provides a getting ahead class to our clients. For that class, it's 2-hour sessions twice a week for 9 weeks. The clients that attend that class are typically provided dinner, childcare, and a Walmart gift card for each class they attend. For that class, it is not just for our clients, it's for any survivors of abuse, and that is open to the community as well. Typically for that, we do some in-house referrals to Catholic Charities for the class, but anybody in the community can contact Catholic Charities directly and say they're interested in the class, and then they can kind of get enrolled that way as well. Currently, both of those positions are vacant, but we are hoping to have them back in-house at Mariposa at the beginning of next year.
Awesome. It's nice that you guys have these partnerships and that there are other resources linked to you guys that people can use.
Yes, we like to think of that as like a one-stop shop. So having those wraparound services where they can kind of just come to one place and get all of their services instead of having to go to various agencies for those.
This question is more about your job. So, what outreach efforts do you have for youth and marginalized groups such as the LGBTQ community? And
So for that, for my job specifically, so being the community relations supervisor, I go out to the community as much as possible and do all of our community outreach. I do all of our resource fairs. Any events that I am invited to, we will attend and table a booth. And that's kind of how letting the community know what our services are, how we can help educate and partner with anybody in the community. As far as including the LGBTQ plus community and men for our services, so they have access to all of our services as well, whether that's case management, shelter, things like that. I did mention earlier, as far as our shelter goes, it's still primarily only women and children. But like I said, if we do have a male survivor or an LGBTQ plus member that qualifies for a shelter, we'll place them in a hotel temporarily. So they can still utilize that resource just in a different way.
it's very good to know that you guys are willing to serve everyone, especially in this day and age. So, that's very encouraging.
Yes.
All right. Another question about you, sir, because we need some Dominic Johnson from the podcast. So, what inspired you to become involved with Mariposa Center for Safety, and how has your experience been so far?
So previous to starting with Mariposa almost 2 years ago, my previous line of work, I was a domestic violence treatment provider. So I worked primarily only with offenders of abuse. So I used to do group therapy with offenders. If they were court ordered to do domestic violence treatment, they would come and do my group therapy for months at a time. And then we would assess, we would work with multidisciplinary treatment teams at that time. So probation officers, parole officers, things of that nature, to assess them to be able to, integrate them back into the community. So working with the offenders, I was intrigued with working more on the victim side. So when I seen this opening, I applied for it. And now that I'm here, it really is a true passion of mine to assist the victims of domestic violence.
Well, we appreciate the work that we do because I've heard nothing but good things about you. So you must be doing something.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Is there like a success story that you'd like to share that you have that highlights the impact of the centers?
Yes. I mean, how do I pick? There's so many. Well, in my time being here for 2 years, there's been a few, there's been multiple success stories, but there is one in particular that I would like to discuss. So we had a young lady who was receiving services from us. They were trying to get emergency sheltered. She had actually had to cross state lines. So she came from a different state and utilized our shelter here in Pueblo. She had to drive with her and her kids through the snow and things like that to get to our shelter. And when she got here, we were able to integrate her into our shelter, her and her kiddos. And she really, really thrived from the shelters. Being able to have a place and start to become stable again, she really appreciated that. So she was able to find employment with her time being in the shelter. She was able to find childcare for her children. And she eventually found an apartment. She got her first paycheck and she was so excited. So it's things like that that really help keep us going at what we do. And so when she got her first paycheck, she was able to find an apartment and put the deposit and pay her first month's rent and transition into her apartment with her kiddos. And so when she did that, we were able to provide her with some furnishings, kitchenware, a bedroom set, things like that. We reached out to our public community and said, we have somebody who's transitioning from our shelter into her apartment. Is there any donations that the public community could provide her to help with this transition? And we got an overwhelming and overbearing load of donations for her to furnish her apartment for her so she didn't have to completely start fresh. So that really helped her in the long run. She did paint a portrait for us, and I wish everybody could see this. But this portrait, to kind of describe it for everyone listening, it has a cityscape on the bottom, and it has a giant moon, and there's a butterfly that's on a feather, kind of like blowing in the wind. And the client actually wrote a letter about it. She said, I created a painting that I left at the cottage. I titled it A Beautiful Landing. In the painting was a night cityscape and a super moon. In silhouette was a butterfly landing on a feather. Mariposa is the Spanish word for butterfly. The insect starts as a caterpillar and goes through its changes to become a butterfly and take flight onto a new life as a new creature. I couldn't find another name more fitting. I came here broken, hopeless, and a victim of domestic violence. I leave as a survivor with new hope and a bright future. So just having that from the clients is, letting us know that we're doing what we're supposed to do to help these survivors and all of our clients to get on their feet again and show them that, life is still beautiful and they can take the power and control that was taken from them and they have control of their future again.
That is so awesome and inspirational. I don't know about you, but it's like so dusty in here.
It's okay. You don't have to cry.
Butterfly like fits your guys' so well to know Mariposa is like the Spanish word for butterfly word. Even though stuff happens to you in your life, like you still have a chance to start over again. Like it may be hard at first, but the results will be very nice.
Yes. And that's when a lot of clients come to us, that is one of their, fears is having to start over again. They don't know how to. And so being able to, help guide them in their direction of what they want for their life and their future really aligns with our core values and what we strive for here at Mariposa.
That's awesome. And one final question to wrap this up. What are some of Mariposa Center for Safety long-term goals? And how can the community support these initiatives?
Oh, so many goals. Well, we hope to still be standing here for another 100+ years to be able to provide our services and support to the community. It is important to have services like ours because all these different various types of abuse is happening in our community. And a lot of it is not on the news or made for the public to see. And so a lot of it is behind closed doors. And so it is important for us to have these services. Our Pueblo community has been great, like I said, with, donations. We're always taking donations, intangible, tangible items. I know funding, funding is always a huge one for us, but our Pueblo community has been great with giving us donations, and we're always looking for volunteers. So if anybody's listening and would like to volunteer, you can always reach out to us.
Wow. Thank you for your time, Dominic. This was awesome.
Yes, thank you, Kwa.